Welcome to Season 2 of Bed and Butter, the hospitality podcast designed exclusively for budding students and aspiring industry leaders. The podcast is in partnership with Southern Maine Community College. We're thrilled to continue this exciting journey with you. Each episode will delve into the heart of hospitality, uncovering invaluable insights, trends, and strategies. Join us along with culinary professionals, entrepreneurs, hotel and cruise line executives. Whether you're sharpening your skills or stepping into the world of hospitality for the first time, Bed and Butter is your go-to resource. So let's dive in and spread the knowledge, one episode at a time.
Today, we're thrilled to have a true industry icon with us, Dondra Ritzenthaler, the CEO of Azamara Cruises. With over 40 years in the travel industry, Dondra has done it all, from leading teams at Celebrity Cruises to a key role in launching Azamara. Her journey has taken her from American Airlines to the helm of a cruise line that sails some of the most stunning destinations in the world, like Japan, the Mediterranean, and Italy. In this episode, Dondra will share her inspiring stories, insights, and tips on how we can chart our own course in building successful careers. You won't want to miss this conversation with a dynamic leader who's shaping the future of travel. Well, hi, Dondra. Thanks so much for joining me today.
I am so fired up to be your guest, Sean, and thank you so much for having me.
You know, we had a little pre-discussion, and I think you sound like you must be from Southern Maine.
Maybe a little further south than Maine. How about Texas? I'm a Texas born and raised.
But you're in Miami now, right?
I am, because, being in the cruise business, Miami is pretty much, that has to be your home, because that's where pretty much all the cruise lines are based.
Well, I really am honored, because you're a big deal. Like, you're an executive in a cruise line company, and you've had many years of experience. And I think I'm probably more excited than our listeners could fathom.
Well, Sean, I think you're a big deal, because I couldn't do what I do without you. So I appreciate the compliment, but right back at you.
Well, thanks. I think we're it's pretty cool when you're talking to someone who's in a role similar and similar values and similar beliefs, and it reinforces maybe what we do. And I thank you for being here. And as I said, that a lot of our listeners are students or young professionals or people just considering the hospitality business. And I found even that, I've got a lot of friends who are Hilton and Marriott execs, and they're listening, and they just say, "Oh, that's great. That one I heard about this." And so I think it's a wide variety of people, which I did not expect. So who knows? Maybe you'll find some good executives out there to join your team.
Well, you always want to learn, no matter what age or what job, whether they're students of yours or that age or my age, where, you need to keep learning every single day.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things I always talk about is you said you don't necessarily get old, as long as you stay relevant.
That's right. I call it not getting old. I call it getting wiser.
That's right. Exactly. So let's give just our listeners a little brief summary of, how you've gotten your career to where it is. And, you had to prepare yourself for this senior role. Some of the steps and things you went through to get to there.
Yeah. So, I graduated from college and went right to work for the airline business. I went to work for American Airlines, and I worked there 20 years. And Sean, in the 20 years, I had 11 jobs.
Wow.
And the reason that I did that is that each job that I would get, I would learn something else that made me better tomorrow than today. Right. And so I was always hungry for, all right, I've done this a couple of years. I know what I'm doing enough. So now I want to do something else to keep growing. And then after 20 years at American, I went to Celebrity Cruise Lines, which is a part of the Royal Caribbean family of brands. And believe it or not, was there 20 years. The difference is I only had 2 jobs there. But each time that I took a job, Sean, I listened and I learned. And those jobs and the job that I did at Celebrity 100% prepared me for for now being the CEO of Azamara Cruises, which I'm so honored and humbled to be. But I will tell you that it was the mindset that I had of be humble and be hungry and listen and learn that I firmly believe, Sean, is the reason that I was able to secure this job.
Well, those four words are really important. Humble, hungry, listen and learn. I was trying
It's
to,
so true, though.
yeah, it is.
And you know how sometimes people use words like that and you think, gosh, they're just using a bunch of buzzwords. And I'm not that person, but I so believe in those words. You know, I've always told my kids who have done sports their whole life, you got to stay humble and hungry. And and it's been a recipe for success for me. And so when you ask me that, whether somebody might think that those are just buzzwords or not, I can promise you, Sean, that I have lived that.
That's great. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the listening and learning, and with your career, I think the buzzwords are just the end product of what you learned over your 20 years of changing jobs. Now, it wasn't like you were jumping ship; you were with American, so it was all good things. I mean, if you jump 12 different companies, and sends a different message, but you really believed in the company and wanted to do better for it. And I think that's a great lesson for all of us to learn. And myself, I've been 35 years with the same company.
Well, but you know what's interesting is that I do love the hospitality business and I did love American Airlines, but I wanted to know more. And when you go in and you do a job and you bust it, you know what I mean? Like you keep your head down, you stay positive, you ask for extra work, you do the things that shows that person, not by what you're saying, but by what you're doing, that you really do mean it, that you want to listen and learn and be really good at where you are so that they would be willing to let you move. And I got to tell you, that was a really smart decision for me along the way, because then 20 years later and having 11 different jobs prepared me for the next job. And so it really does work like that.
I think some people aren't as patient. And I think the patience, you're not patient with your career because you wanted to continue to grow, but you're patient and say, okay, I'm going to wait. There's going to be an opportunity. And you mentioned you want to work hard in between to prepare you for that next job. So when it's time, it's a no brainer. Dondra's going to get the answer. She's going to get picked.
Can I share an example of how it's not easy?
Please.
Because if I was a listener, I would go, but it's not that easy. But let me give you an example of perseverance. One of my favorite jobs that I ever had at American Airlines was a national account manager position where you called on corporations, right? Like Nike and Mary Kay Cosmetics and some of those things. And Sean, I wanted that job so badly because I knew that it would be the highest level of negotiations you could learn and the highest level of relationships and visibility into the company. So I went for the job and I did not get it. And, you know, I'm very competitive and I was like, God bless America. I want this job. So I went to the hiring manager and I said, can you please share with me 3 things that I need to do to put myself in a better position the next time this job comes open? The person at first said, oh, no, you're doing great. That person just had more experience. And I very professionally pushed to say, while I appreciate the comment, I really want you to give me the 3 things that I need to work on, because there was a reason that this person beat me. So they told me the 3 things. I worked on it, Sean. I promise you, I worked and I worked and I worked. And the job came open again about 18 months later. And guess what? I applied and I did not get the job. And now I was really and truly in my heart, I was kind of perturbed because I had done everything that they said and I showed results. So I went right back into the hiring manager and I asked him again, tell me 3 more things. And this time he knew, of course, not to say anything other than the 3 things. And lo and behold, Sean, the 3rd time the job came open, I got the job, and that sent my career off on the right trajectory. So the reason I share this with you and with your listeners is because, you know, when you hear you had 11 jobs in 20 years, people go, yeah, but she makes it sound too easy. It wasn't easy. And I had to be resilient and have perseverance to get that job that I decided I was going to get it no matter what. And I stayed on it and then I got it.
Wow, what a great story. I mean, talk about helping someone with their career. And I hope, you know, some people, I had jobs that I didn't get, you know, or jobs that I thought I should have gotten. And I think that's a great story. And I too am, you know, I'm a go-getter, but that would have inspired me earlier, maybe for my next career.
There you go. Listen, we could still have another career, you and I.
Yeah. Well,
I
tell
gotta
me about
tell you, I
that.
think I'm on my last one.
So I don't know exactly know how it happened, but you've only been with Azamara for a few months, right? 4 or
A
5.
few months.
Yeah.
And I joke with people because I was at American 20 years and I was at Celebrity 20 years. But I tell everybody I am not going to be at Azamara for 20 years.
Well, how did you, it was a high powered position you had with Celebrity, and it was Celebrity and another company, right?
Well, it was just American Airlines, and then at the Royal Caribbean Group, I only worked for Celebrity, so
That's
it
what
was really just those two companies.
Celebrity.
And so, but when you think about it, 40 years is quite a long time. And I was just with two companies, but think that through, right? I had 11 jobs in the first 20 and two jobs in the last 20, because the higher the responsibility, the more room there is to move.
Yeah. So you went from Celebrity, and then you sort of retired, and then
I did.
Yeah.
Sean, I did retire. I always said that when I turned 60, I was going to retire and I was going to play golf and I was going to, go and see the world. And I'll be very transparent with you and all the listeners. I turned 60 and I retired and I was climbing the walls. And I volunteered and I, got certified to dive. And so I did some of those fun things. But by noon every day, I was like, I need to do more. I need to, pay it forward more. I need to give back more. I need to feel more valid and valued. And so that's what made me decide that when the recruiter did call and say, there's an opportunity for you to interview for the CEO job of Azamara Cruises, I was beside myself, humbled and honored, and could not say yes fast enough.
That's so. How did you make that transition? I mean, you were not a CEO. You had a lot of high level positions. That last position was really high level. A lot of people and projects and things, worked for you. But it was all on the top end of the P&L. It's all in the revenues and the sales and the organization and reservations and all that stuff. How were you a little bit nervous about crossing over and getting into okay, now I'm going to delve into the other side of the P&L, all the expenses and operations and all of that? I know when I switched over to CEO, I was scared. My boss was a legend. He was great. He was my mentor. But then I had to figure it out. That's a big step for you too, from going from one side of the P&L to the other side, now doing the whole P&L. It's on you.
100%. But let me tell you, was I scared? Absolutely. And I think that if you don't feel a little bit of those butterflies in your stomach when you take on a big role, then you probably aren't being honest with yourself, or maybe you're missing something, right? But yeah, I was exhilarated and energized and terrified all at the same time, right? But I had enough belief and confidence in myself. But what I decided though was, I've learned a lot through the years. And one thing that I did learn is that I'm not always the smartest person in the room, but I'm smart enough to surround myself with people that are really smart and good at the things that maybe I'm not as good at. And then you know what I do, Sean? I surround myself with those people and then I listen to them. And that has been the biggest success factor in my career. So while I had never run the P&L and been the CEO, I've been at the table and, the executive leadership team table, listening and learning. And when I started, I just made sure that I had really talented people that had a lot of ethics and morals. And the last 3 months has been such a beautiful journey because I have just listened and learned. And that, I think, is what's going to make me a very successful CEO.
Well, you listen and you learn, and you were humble, and you're actually hungry. So, I mean, you're meeting those.
I am living them.
Yeah.
I am living all four of those.
I see. It's just showing that I'm paying attention to you.
Thank you. I did realize that you got all four of them. Good job.
Well, you talk about being fearful, and I talked about my fear there. And I'm coming clean on this. So I'm going to talk to the CEO of a major cruise line, and I'm in my office. I'm a CEO. I'm a pretty big player. I'm shaking. I'm nervous. And I'm not nervous in front of people, but I'm like, for some reason, it was like, and talking with you probably for 3 minutes, it all went away. So that guess it goes to show your style as a leader.
Aw,
So,
thank you.
uh, so I'm over the nerves now, and I just want to have fun and talk with you.
Thank you so much. Ditto. Well, it's funny, we're all the same. It's really funny. I will tell you that when I graduated from college in the 80s, I got to be honest, Sean, I would have never thought in a million years that I could ever be the CEO of a beautiful cruise line like Azamara Cruises. I never thought that that could happen. And even 20 years later, when I left American and came to the cruise industry, I still didn't think that that could happen. And now that I have been given this opportunity, I still have a lot to prove to myself and to the industry that a 60-year-old female that's only been in the sales and marketing side of the business can run the business. And that puts fire in my belly every day. I've got a lot to prove to myself, and I want to make sure that when I do leave, 5 years, 6 years, whatever time, that I have left a beautiful impression, not only to get results, because obviously you have to get results. Your private equity results are just part of the deal, but also set the standard for the fact that companies could feel comfortable hiring CEOs from the front side of the business, the sales and marketing side of the business, and know that they can do that and do it in a way that people feel inspired and valued, and that people know that I care about them as people first. If I can do those three things, then I'm going to walk away from here 5 or 6 years from now and feel like I accomplished what I was after.
Well, that's impressive that you have that drive, but also have the wherewithal to do it. You've got it, and it's just I can see why they hired you. I'd hire you for me to run my job. That's about that could be your next career. After 5 or 6 years, you can do the same thing. So tell me, you've really worked hard, and you've mentioned that a number of times, and I can tell that that's the thing especially in the persistence, to get where you are. And I think, I have done the same thing. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, that we both have worked really hard. And that's probably a big reason we're where we are. But do you have any regrets? Are there any regrets you had along on your challenges, on your tour of duty, so to speak?
Regrets. I do. I think we all do, right? One of my regrets is that it took me 3 times to get that job. So I don't have to tell you that. I already told you that story. That's a regret of mine because I didn't want it to take that long, right? Another regret is that there has been times throughout my 40 years that I saw something and I didn't like the way that somebody was either treating a fellow colleague or a direct report. And early on in my career, I didn't say anything. And I didn't have the courage to say anything. And I regret that, right? Because looking back, you think you've got to have the courage, right? You got to have the courage to do the right thing, to step up or stand up for people. And it was only probably, I would say 20, 25 years later that I got that courage. And so one of my regrets is that I didn't have the courage early on. And it was only when I started feeling really confident in my own abilities that I finally said, if somebody thinks that I'm outspoken because I'm sticking up for what I believe is right, then I'm okay with that. But that is learned through the years. But that is probably one of my biggest regrets, is that I think I could have helped people earlier on in my career that I didn't.
Well, I'm sure since then you've probably helped a lot of people. You probably helped a lot of people, maybe not in that instance, but I'm sure you did. So let's take it a little further. Let's look at, you're a business executive of a major organization. You're at the top spot. How do you balance your life? How did you and how do you balance your life, your family, and your career? All of those three things, like, they're all full-time jobs in and of themselves.
Yeah.
How did you seem to do that?
It's such an amazing question, because it's sort of like when you have a baby, there's no manual, right? How you're supposed to raise your kids. There's no manual on this on life balance, but what I will tell you is that probably could be in the answer that I asked when you asked me about regret.
Yeah.
I was extremely driven, still am, and want to win and will be the hardest worker of anybody out there. And I can tell you that I sometimes missed things. I missed a big championship football game or, a homecoming when it was only sophomore year because I thought I could go junior and senior year. And, I missed some of those big things. And it was because I was so dedicated and so driven. But what I will tell you is that, boy, I give advice to people now that I say, don't miss those things. Because if you do a great job and you put your head down and you work and you get results, and then you want to leave to go do something that's like that, they're going to value you so much and they're going to appreciate the fact that you work so hard that will not be an issue. And I wish that I had not skipped some of those things that I skipped. And so I will tell you that you do have to find that balance. And it's sometimes different. Sometimes you have to work a little bit more and find less balance at home, as long as you then find another time when you have a little bit more balance at home and being a mom or a dad or a significant other or a friend or whatever. But that is a constant ongoing way that you got to look in the mirror and say, am I balancing my life out properly? There is 2 books that I tell people that I read that have helped me through the years. One of them being a mom. So for you moms out there, and it's How She Really Does It. The book is called How She Really Does It. And the subtitle is the story of how to be a good stay at work mom. And I got to tell you, that book is so good because it talks so much about how we feel guilty. Our kids don't really even know that we feel guilty and they're perfectly fine, but we still feel guilty. And then the other one is called Brave, Not Perfect. And oh my goodness, that book was so good because, we all have a tendency to try to be perfect. And what this book taught me is that if you can be more brave and not worry so much about being perfect, your life will be much more successful and you will find a much better life balance.
Boy, well, now, can I read those 2? They're not just for moms, right?
No, they're for everybody.
I think,
but, the stay at work mom obviously was designed for moms who feel guilty about going to work, and it's funny. Sometimes moms feel more guilt about that. I don't know if it's a DNA thing than dads feel, but as I have grown through the years, there's just as many dads that feel so bad about, having to go to work or get on an airplane, or when they walk out their front door, their child is screaming. And, their child then stops screaming 1 second after the door closed, and you don't see that. And you stay with that guilt all day.
Mom loves that. Yeah, that's true. I've written both those books down. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I think, so, we don't have a lot of time left, but I love the fact that I listened to you speak on another podcast and you talked about women leaders that kind of blazed the way for you.
Yeah.
Couple in the cruise line business, I think.
Yeah.
Can you talk about those 2 quickly, for the next couple minutes?
Absolutely. So, I've had wonderful leaders throughout my entire life, all the way from just being a young kid with my mom and dad. But Lisa Lutoff-Perlo was the president and CEO of Celebrity Cruises that I had the privilege of working first side by side with, because she was the head of hotel operations when I was the head of sales. And then she became the president and CEO and just did a tremendous job. She had a hard job just like this one. And she just was so gracefully worked her way through it, having to break down walls, having to make really tough decisions. And she led out loud and she challenged us. She wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination, but always led with her heart in her head. And then Captain Kate McHugh, I don't know if you know her, Sean, you probably do, but she was the first female American captain of a major cruise line. And boy, I got to tell you, she's one of the most dynamic women I've ever met in my life, because she is in a field that is dominant men. And she has found her place in her way. She's got a major following. She is, breaking that glass ceiling in the world of maritime and is bringing in more and more women. And we've now grown to over 20% women on the bridge across the industry, with Captain Kate blazing the way. And so I'm very grateful for that. And hopefully someday people would say my name as it related to, blazing the way for future leaders, whether they be men or women, to lead out loud and lead in a way that lets people take the journey with you, and you show them respect and love and admiration. And that's what I hope people will say about me someday, just like I said about Lisa and Captain Kate.
Well, you gotta know that I'm gonna say that about you.
Thank you.
Give me a 1 minute, 2 minute elevator speech on Azamara Cruises. I mean, I know they're a great cruise company, and I've gone online, but tell our listeners just a little bit about that.
You got it. So in the cruise business, there is big ships, medium ships, and small ships. And Azamara Cruises is a very small fleet of 4 baby ships, I call them. They only have 700 guests, 350 rooms. But what really makes us special at Azamara is that we go, because we're small, we go to the places around the world that ships normally can't even get to. And then when we're at these beautiful places, we stay late night and overnight, which means that our guests can not only get off and do a beautiful shore excursion, go in and see the beautiful places around the world, but they can stay at night, go to dinner at night, see the city at night, and then we leave the next morning. So we really give an unrushed and really authentic experience. So, and then we do these things called As Amazing Evenings. And what we do is we go into places and we curate and we develop this genuine, authentic opportunity that we take every one of our 700 guests to. And Sean, if you and I tried to do that, we would never be able to do it. It's in people's private homes and those types of things. So my elevator speech would be, if you like cruising, but you really want to get into that destination way more authentically and longer, Azamara Cruises is the perfect brand. Our service is awesome. Our food is awesome. Our staff is awesome. Our beds are awesome. But what we're really about is getting you into that destination in a much more authentic way.
Well, you sold me.
All right, let's do it.
I'm going to have my wife listen to this, and she's going to be online, and I'm sure between the two of us, we're going to find, I noticed that I saw Italy, Japan, Mediterranean, Africa, Antarctica, man.
All of those places.
Wow.
And you know what's really cool? We also have special relationships with Perry Golf, where we'll do the British Open during the British Isles cruise, and we take you to the British Open. We have the Monte Carlo Grand Prix when we do when we're into Monte Carlo. And then we do things where you want to really get immersed in Italy. We have a 12, 14 night cruise where we go to literally every port in Italy. Same for Spain, same for, and so we just do things a little bit different than most people.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. And Don, I've got to close this out, but I can't tell you how inspirational this was to me. And I'm sorry if people think I'm the only one that's getting anything out of this. I know everybody else will, but it's been wonderful. You are a joy and an honor to have you here. And I'm totally relaxed. And I'm going to come to Miami and say hi.
That sounds perfect. And I would love to host you and your wife both when y'all are there. And I really want you to know how much I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, because if one little bitty thing that I might have said as somebody who's been in this business for a long time positively impacts one of the listeners, then I will feel very blessed about that. So Sean, thank you for having me from the bottom of my heart.
Well, thank you. And please thank Jill. She was wonderful. We shared grandchildren pictures and everything. Jill works. And she was wonderful too. So give her my thanks.
Thank you. And have a super fantastic weekend, everybody. Talk to y'all later. Bye.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Bed and Butter, the hospitality podcast produced in partnership with Southern Maine Community College. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so that you don't miss any episodes, and have a butterful day.